Yeah, I love that music. I love that music. I I got that music when I purchased my actually I got a subscription to that music when I went ahead and subscribed with another subscription to my editing software. So yeah, I really like that. I think it's got a little bit of kind of like a little bit of excitement in it, I guess, I mean, at least a little bit anyway. Anyways, welcome to my live stream. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. I think if you're on the West Coast, you're probably not yet ready for dinner. If you're on the East Coast, well, then probably you just finished dinner. If you're somewhere in the middle, well, hopefully you're not sitting down to dinner. If you are, maybe you really got this live stream propped up next to your table so you can watch me. Not that you really need to be doing that while you're eating. So strike that. I don't think you need to do that. Anyways, welcome. I'm really glad that you're here. And what I'm going to do today is talk about something that is so important when you are trying to build a business. And it's so important because a lot of folks don't think about setting goals or having a plan. Maybe you do have a plan, but right away you forget the plan when you're going to start a business. And I've been there, I've done it. I've done it. I've done it all. Almost want to say I've done it all, but probably I've done quite a bit, maybe more than most and not as much as some others, but I've done it. So I know that when you're starting out, you're almost like just feeling like this. Let me show you what you're feeling like. So you're feeling like you are drowning. You're almost struggling. You're trying to figure out, what am I going to do, man? I'm starting this business. I got all this money involved in it. And, it's not going the way I thought it was going to go. And what am I going to do? Well, my very first business, a small business that I started, I'm going to say it failed, but it actually didn't fail because I was able to sell it to a partner I had at the time who decided he was going to go ahead and buy it from me. He was going to buy the rest that he didn't own, the rest of the ownership. And he bought it. He ran it for about 3 or 4 more years. And then he ended up selling it too. So either way, the business, it lasted through me. It lasted through him for a few years and he made some money. But what I want to do with you today is show you how I was able to build multiple businesses that generated millions of dollars in sales. And I'm going to show you that because I know that a lot of folks out there, when you're watching YouTube or maybe you're reading some books, sometimes they don't get into those kind of details that you really need to know about if you want to build something that is successful, something that's going to be sustaining, something that's going to last. Now, I was fortunate enough that I've always been a reader, always been looking for ideas and stuff. So I got one of my businesses going in another business after I sold that first one, and I came across some ideas, and then eventually I came across Brian Tracy. I came across some ideas that he had, and lo and behold, I've been doing some of this stuff anyway because I learned the hard way, as I'm sure Brian learned the hard way, or at least I heard stories of folks who learned the hard way. So I learned the hard way. So I'm going to get to things that I did to build businesses that generated millions of dollars in sales. And it all starts with goals. And these aren't something, again, you're not going to learn it from maybe watching some of these guys on YouTube or these women on YouTube who are just going to tell you, yeah, this is what you do, do this and you're going to make $1,000 a day or $5,000 a month or whatever. They didn't have YouTube, they'd have nothing. The algorithm kissed them, gave them a big, fat, wet kiss, and it's made them some money. And yeah, now they're pros, now they're experts, but you know what? They haven't done anything as far as I'm concerned. And if you don't believe that, look at what they're doing and ask yourself, just look at what they're doing. Maybe even ask them, what have they done before that? What have they done other than using the YouTube algorithm, leaning on that? So we're gonna talk about what you can do, what I've learned about building a business. And I'm going to start with this quote here. I thought this was a very appropriate quote from Brian Tracy. And he says, you can take a master's degree at a leading university and never receive a single hour of instruction on goal setting and goal achieving. That's the key, my friends, goal achieving. Fortunately, setting a goal is a skill. And yeah, you know what? They might tell you, you might hear from a friend, hey, yeah, you got to set a goal, but how do we achieve that goal? How do you achieve it? And what I did is, yeah, I sat down one day, especially when I built my first business. It turned into multiple $1 million worth of business. I think I was doing 7 million a year in sales, actually, over 7 million a year in sales. And I started it out from my dining room table, started out with nothing. But I knew enough from my past business. I knew enough. I needed to set some goals. So what I did was, first of all, I decided, what do I want? What do I want? I'm telling you, I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to tell you, figure out what you really want. And this is what Brian says. This is number one. This is what you got to do. Decide what you want. Clearly define what you want to achieve in each area of your life. And when you're doing a business, man, you're looking at not just that business, but how is it affecting your life? What do I want? I'm going to be working 24 hours, maybe a day, 7 days a week. Well, is that going to give me the other stuff that I want in my life and the other areas? But you want to decide what you want. Be specific and become, it says here, be specific and become a meaningful specific rather than a wandering generality. Write down your goals to give them energy and substance. Now, that is important. That's so important to go ahead and write down your goals. And that takes us right to number two. Write it down. Always think on paper. Write your goals down clearly and in detail. And that's how you build those $1 million businesses. That's how you build it. You write it down and you stare at it. A goal that remains unwritten is merely a wish. Putting it in writing gives it power. I had a whiteboard. I always had a whiteboard in my office. Whiteboards throughout the offices. All the offices almost had a whiteboard, right? Almost all of them did. And you know what? In my office, I had my whiteboard and I wrote everything down that I wanted to achieve. One of my friends, a good friend of mine, built a construction business, made really good money doing it. And you know what he did? On his bathroom mirror, he had down what he needed to make every single month. And I remember the number was $28,000 a month. It's a small construction business, but it was a decent business, actually. He made some good money, as you could see. But he wrote down $28,000. And that was what he wrote down in his first year of business. He had to make that every single month. He did basement waterproofing and concrete work. So he wrote it down. You know what? He got up in the morning and saw it. His wife got up in the morning and she saw it. When the kids eventually they wandered in the bathroom, they saw it. This is the goal. We wrote it down, man. I wrote down my goals, as I said, on my whiteboards. I knew what I needed to achieve, and I achieved them. And it wasn't through some algorithm. I love YouTube, but the algorithm is what Ross. If you're on a YouTuber, you're a slave to the algorithm. I wasn't a slave to anything. I was a slave to my wants, my needs, my desires, and my goals, and that's what motivated me. It's what should motivate you. So that's what's important. Let me put that up here again. Write it down. Always think on paper. Write your goals down clearly and in detail. If you want to make that big buck, if you want to make the bucks, if you really want to make it, and you're not somebody who is like, I'll say lazy. Lazy. You're going to start a business, but you know what? You're not really motivated. You're just kind of lazy. You just did it because somebody told you it's a good idea to do this particular kind of business, so you do it, and then didn't work out. You know what? Or it is working out, but you know what? You don't realize it because you're not hitting some numbers that you think in your mind you should be hitting, but you didn't write them down. You didn't think them through. That's what I'm telling you. Now, set a deadline. Whenever you set a goal, you set a deadline. You got to measure yourself. They do this in all walks of life, whether it's in business, in politics. I know I've read some generals, what they talk about, they set deadlines. We got to get this done by this. Now, here's the thing about deadlines. Let me say this, okay? You set a deadline, or someone's going to set it for you. If you remember anything up through this video, if you remember anything, remember that you set a deadline or someone's going to set it for you. I remember when my first business, my first one, and then they all were kind of the same and similar in that I set goals, I set deadlines for everything. But I remember my wife and I, we had 2 children. I think we were living at her parents' house, and they had the lower level, a nice area, but we were living there, and the generosity and the kindness of them, that they were supporting what we were doing, what I was doing, and they wanted me to be successful. But you know what? I could only live there so long. I had a deadline. a deadline. So you set a deadline or someone's going to set that deadline for you. So, who do you want to set the deadline for you? Do you want your landlord to set the deadline for you? The mortgage company to set the deadline for you? The car loan company to set the deadline? No, you set your own deadlines. Assign a deadline to your goal. Deadlines act as a forcing system in your subconscious mind. They motivate you to take the necessary actions to make your goal a reality. For significant goals, consider setting sub deadlines as well. So, yeah, I had a goal. I remember we had a goal. We wanted to hit $1 million in sales. Me and the guy that was my partner at the time when my first publication, he was my partner. And he wasn't super motivated, but you know what? He was there. He showed up for 40 hours a week. So I give him that. But I remember we set a goal. We wanted to do $1 million in sales. $1 million. That's what we thought. We'll do $1 million. That's a lot of money. We thought. Of course, we had probably 20, 30 people at that time. Maybe not that many, but we had a few people. So we hit that goal. But we knew to hit that goal, we had to have sort of mini goals every month. We had to see a certain percentage increase in our sales. And if we didn't see that percentage increase in our sales, what we ended up doing was we just worked harder. We got out there. We contacted them, knocked on more doors, contacted more companies over the phone. We did whatever we had to do, but we set mini goals. So yeah, you set a goal and then you set those smaller goals. And that's what we did. So I wrote things down, then I set goals, and I knew things were going to change and we were going to make adjustments because that's normal in business, my friend. It's normal. You can do it. But if you want to make the money, if you're not turning this off right now, you're saying this guy's a little bit too intense for me. It's almost dinner time. I need to relax. Well, you know what? That's cool. Just, depart. But if you want to really hear how it's done, and not just done by somebody who does it once, but somebody who's done it multiple times, that's what you do. Thank God for Brian Tracy for this formula. But you know what? This formula is a formula that's really a formula that a lot of folks have used to be successful. So follow it. So yeah, let's go ahead and make a list, create a comprehensive list of all the tasks and activities required to achieve your goal. Continuously update this list as new ideas come to mind. Think of it as your roadmap to success. I had so many lists, but you know what I did? In the beginning, I realized I needed a list. I needed to have things, but then what I did is I just said, I want one list. And on that list, I'm going to have 10 items. And out of those 10 items, only the one at the top was the one that needed to get done that day, or that was the focus, my main focus. So create a list. My first year sales, my first publication, I had a chain of business to business magazines. That's how I did. I got out. Thank God I got out before the market ended up turning on when it came to that old print business there, But what I did is I put together my list and I set my goals and I made my adjustments and I looked at that number one thing that was the most important. I focused most of my attention on that number one thing. And when that number one thing on my list was finished, then I went to the number 2 and number 3, but I condensed down into a certain number of things that I knew realistically I could get done. And I started to say this, but when I finally had down there was I had at the very bottom, I said, okay, what you did today, what you accomplished today, is it enough for you to hit your dollar goal, your sales goal, so you can pay your bills? My first year we did $80,000 in sales. Now you go to $80,000 and within less than 5 years, you're doing 7 million. I think you're doing something right. But we went from $80,000 in our first year. And believe me, it was a struggle. I was not making a lot of money, taking home a lot of money, not with a partner, with employees and stuff like that. No, you're not making bank. So you just set your goal, make your list, prioritize that list, and always make sure that you have that eye on that number one goal, which is the dollar amount that you need to make. Let's go to the next one here. I said, organize your list. I just talked about prioritizing. So maybe I'm repeating myself here, but prioritize, decide what needs to be done first and what you can follow. Organize your plan like a blueprint for building your dream home. So yeah, I just went over prioritizing your list. And I know that that's important. I know it is because I've seen it done. I've seen it work. And I've seen people who failed, who lost everything. They lost everything because they didn't prioritize. They didn't make that list, a realistic list of what needed to be done. Now, I talked to a lot of folks. I got a guy just wrote me right before I came on air here. He's asking me some more questions about valuing a business, and I get those questions 3 or 4 times a week. And I won't go into the story why I decided to become very knowledgeable when it came to valuing businesses, but I did decide to become knowledgeable. I did a video that's gotten a ton of views on here, how to value a small business. Things you should know before you buy or sell, I think is the name of the video. You can check it out yourself. It's on Over 50 TV. It's not on Side Hustle Rules, although I think on my Side Hustle Rules channel where you're watching me now, I think we do have quite a couple of videos anyway that I produced on valuing a business. But the point is, people are asking me these questions about valuing businesses, and I want to be able to help them. But at the same time, I've got some priorities myself that I've got to do and work on. So let's go on. Let's just keep going on here. So prioritize your list. I've talked up to your task, decide what needs to be done first. Now take action, get busy, take action on your plan, do something, anything that moves you towards your most important goal. Consistent action is key. Consistent action is key. Now, let me tell you a little story here, okay? I remember it was a Saturday evening. It was summertime, beautiful outside. It was probably 7, 8 o'clock, maybe 9, probably closer to 9 because it was going to be dark. I remember that. And my business partner at the time, who put in his 40 a week, and that was about all he ever put in. But you know what? I remember him calling me on the phone, and he's like, on the cell phone, and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing there?" Because could see my car in the parking lot, and it was already getting to be dusk, so he could see the lights run. And he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm working." "What do you think I'm doing?" I wanted to say, "You lazy blank, you mother," but I didn't say that. I just wanted to say, "What do you think?" "Well, why don't you come out, man? We're going out." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. I'm working. I'm consistent. I'm focused. I'm determined." You're not going to be successful unless you're consistent. This is a key lesson here with Brian Tracy that I want you all to be thinking about, is to be consistent. You want to build that $1 million business. You want to build the multiple $1 million businesses. You get your formula down. Brian Tracy's outlining a formula. One part of building a business is setting those goals. It's such an important part. You can come up with a plan. That's great. I had a plan, a one-page plan. A one-page plan, what they call a lean business plan. And you can Google it. I think somewhere I've got a matter of fact on my, I do have in my course, and I've got a link. I'll put a link there's a link in the description box of this video. I believe that's already there. That'll have some examples of lean business plans. And it's a course that I have that'll tell you about the 8 first steps that you need to take to start a business from scratch. And there are 8 steps that you take before you really should open those doors. I've learned this because I've started over almost a dozen businesses, and probably over a dozen businesses. And I took these steps and I put them in a course to help you. And with my video, it's a video course, so I can really walk you through the 8 steps, give you a lot of information. But a lean business plan is in there. I only used a lean business plan, but I was very diligent in establishing goals and following through on what Brian Tracy is mentioning here. And again, I was doing some of the stuff actually before I found Brian Tracy, but I learned so much from him, and I learned how to put it all together in the way I'm presenting it today. So take action. It's so important. Let's go to the number down here. So do something every day. Cultivate the discipline of doing something every single day that aligns with your goal. Whether big or small. Consistent daily actions accumulate over time and lead to remarkable achievements. Think about millions of dollars in sales. Remarkable achievements. Look at that last word, remarkable achievements. I remember going to the bank. True story. I remember going to the bank in the early days, man. We would go like every other day to the bank. And it was like we get the mail, people paid, we got a check. I'd open up the checks and I'd put them in a small, tiny little pile. And then I would just run to the bank and make a deposit. Well, eventually, because I was diligent, because I followed all the things that I'm outlining for you here today, because I'm giving you the formula. I'm giving you the game. I'm telling you how to make it work for you. But one day I remember that deciding, I made a decision. I'm not opening up all these envelopes anymore. They were just envelopes every day, payments coming in, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every day coming in. Think about $7 million a year. Think about what you're bringing in over 500, $600,000 a month. And most of it was being paid in checks, large checks, small checks, whatever. I built this business that had multiple locations. And all the money came to me. And I'm opening up these checks. And I finally just said, screw it. I'm not opening these envelopes anymore. I gave it to my CPA. We had a full-time accountant, CPA on staff. Eventually I hired him, I think 3 years into the business, 2.5, 3 years into the business, bringing this guy on board. I said, Jerry, you open up these envelopes. Just tell me how much money we got. Now, I know there are folks who think that's silly. Mike Foyer, he started Office Max. I was in Mike's office one time, and Mike was signing checks. This guy's got what? He built $1 billion company. I don't know what he was doing in sales at the time, but he's signing checks at his desk. I said, Mike, what are you doing? He said, I sign every single check that goes out of this office. I go, you do? He goes, yeah, I pay every bill. Every bill that comes in, I see it. I'm like, well, Mike, you're a better man than me, my friend, because I don't do that. I've got a guy I trust. I've got a system in place that I created, and the money comes in, the envelopes get open, I get told how much money there is, the money gets deposited, and that's it. But it's by consistent action. It's this consistent action, doing something every day, cultivating the discipline. They're doing something every single day that aligns with your goal, whether big or small. Consistent daily actions accumulate over time and lead to remarkable achievements. Everything accumulates over time. I get people all the time who are like upset. They're upset because they're like, Lou, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. And then I go to tell them to do the number one thing on here. I say, decide what you want, clearly define what you want to achieve each area of your life, be specific, and, do it. And then I say, then you do something every day once you figure that out. But you got to do it every single day. And if you do it, you can make that money. Those folks that tell me that they don't know what they're going to do, you know what? Sometimes I tell them, take this career aptitude test. It's Career Fitter. They have a career aptitude test. I'm an affiliate. And I don't really recommend it anymore just because I'm just so busy and I got a lot of affiliates. I can't recommend every one. But if somebody tells me I don't know what I should do, I don't know what to do with my career, I don't know what kind of business to start, I say, take a career aptitude test. But that's what you do. You got to do those things every single day if you want to make the money. Now, maybe you won't make millions, but if you don't make millions, I'm convinced, and I really believe in this, I'm convinced you haven't done the steps that you need to take to do it. That's obvious to some of you out there. You're going to say, well, Lou, it's obvious, but sometimes it's obvious, but not so obvious because you don't know that you should be taking these steps. You're not understanding it. You don't understand you need to do these steps every single day. This is how you make the millions. This is how you get to a point where you got tens of thousands of dollars in your hands and it's going through your hands. And you don't even want to open the envelopes up anymore. You don't want that money in your hands anymore. And after I did that business, I sold that business to my partner, the guy that barely put in 40 hours a week. I sold it to him. And then I started another business, and that business quickly took off, just like the first one. Probably quicker because I actually had some cash to put into it, but I followed the plan. I followed the discipline. I followed it. The same thing with my national trade show companies. I started 2 of those things. And I remember I was racing one business against the other. Okay, which business was going to do $100,000 this month first? Which was going to do it? Which was going to do it? And I would look at the boards, my whiteboards, and I would do that. But I follow the plan and the discipline. I'm doing that now with my goals now. I've got this YouTube channel. I'm not relying on the algorithm. I mean, if you look at the count on this channel, I don't have a lot of subscribers yet, but I will. But I've got goals, I've got plans, I've got ways that I know to make the money. That's all I'm telling you, my friends. That's all I'm telling you. If you hung out this long, if you wanted to hear what I had to say, if you want to know how to build businesses that will generate millions of dollars, I've given you an outline for setting goals. Some of the other stuff, coming up with that right product, learning how to do it. You can find out those things on Over 50 TV, but you're going to learn more of them on Side Hustle Rules because that's where I'm putting all my business information for now on. I still will put some side hustle stuff on Over 50 TV. So subscribe if you haven't. But I'm putting the nuts and bolts on this channel. And I'm not relying on an algorithm, and if it sounds to me, if you think, well, why is Lou talking about the other folks on YouTube who are just using an algorithm to make their money? Because they don't know what they're doing. I'll just say that. Most of them don't. They know how to do YouTube. Put them in the real world where there's no algorithm, nothing to lean on. They don't own that channel. And you know what? I don't own this channel, but I own everything else. So anyways, that's what I got for you today, my friends. I'm going to put this video up again here if I can remember what I did with it. I just don't want you to be this person here. I don't want you to be struggling. I want you to set your goals, follow a plan, stick to it, make that money that you know you can make. And if you want to follow someone who knows what he's doing, knows what he's talking about, who's done it, built businesses from scratch, well, follow me here. And you decide you don't want to do that. That's you don't want to build a multi-million-dollar business. You don't want to at least try. Well, that's okay too. There's plenty of other YouTube channels that'll just give you one idea after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next. And that's a channel you need to be on. So, my friends, that about wraps it up here. I am going to end this video. Got any questions? Send me your, you can email me, make a comment. I'm looking forward to working with you. I'm looking forward to helping you over time. I'm not going to do a lot of these 7 o'clock at night live streams, but I'm going to do them when I can do them to help you. But follow my channels. Subscribe to Over 50 TV as well. Subscribe to Side Hustle Rules. All right, everybody, you take it easy, and I will see you on the other side. Come on.